What was it like growing up in California at that time, at that era?
Growing up was cool, man. We lived in Beverly Hills. I was born in L.A. in Glendale Hospital, but my mom and dad, we lived in Beverly Hills. My mother was a surgical nurse for the Lakers at the time. We had the Lakers at the house all the time. I mean, I just always remember them being around and having, these parties. And although I knew there were athletes, I knew there were basketball players and everything else, I didn't know really the magnitude of who they were until much later.
So you grew up in this sports world. How did you...
Sports, entertainment, acting, yeah.
How did you end up in politics?
I was 13 and we're in my home in San Jose, actually in Milpitas, we're in my home. And I see this guy on the news, a little short dude. He walks out of what was the state capitol in Sacramento. He walks out of the Capitol building, walks down, the long walkway, walks down the stairs, gets into a black Lamborghini. And I remember turning to my mother and I'm like, who is that? And she said, that's the guy who just got elected speaker. I'm like, well, who is he? He's like, oh, his name is Willie Brown. I'm like, and he gets to drive a Lamborghini? I want to do what he does. And so after working with Dianne Feinstein, lo and behold, maybe jumping ahead to your next question, but lo and behold, my mother gets another call from who? Willie Brown's people. They need some guy to go out and help them run campaigns, do voter registration. And who does she call? She calls me. So that's how I got into politics. And so I ended up doing that, and we ended up not only registering more people than anyone else in the state, we turned out more votes than had ever been turned out before in that district or in that region. And then, of course, the president wins and everything else. So it just elevated and catapulted me into like a higher echelon. So I ended up going over to the White House, and it was just crazy. I was trying to hide it, keep it, hidden, and I did the things where I went to friends and I said, hey, I got this job working graveyard shift. Can you watch my son for me? And they would say, oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. And so I said, well, can I drop him off at like 7 o'clock, 6:37, because I have to drive all the way down. I told him I had to go down to like Richmond area, like a 2-hour drive. And I did that so that he could get dinner. He could eat with them at dinner time, but then he'd get a bath and he would get to bed. And I told him, I said, I'll be back at 7 or 8. Is that good for you? Because, we still have enough time to get to work. And they said, sure. And I did that so he can get breakfast. But God always provided somebody giving me some money or some check coming in the mail or something, because I would end up staying, and you may know where it is. It's the Red Roof Inn on 450. Their room rates are like $39 or $49 a night. So I would stay Friday to Saturday, Saturday to Sunday, then Sunday I would go back to my friends and tell them I got to go to work because it's the graveyard shift. So that would be my Monday, and they would take him back in and everything else. And what happened was, because I was unemployed and because I had a child, I had to go through this, you go through those training programs, and they give you like $50 a week. So that $150 would pay for one room night, but God would pay for the other room night. I kid you not. And I would just remember that. And then we would walk across the street, I'd get him a Happy Meal, and that would be his dinner. And as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I remember what would happen is at that time, I had him for a week, his mom had him for a week. So on that off week, when I got that $50, I would just hold on to it because I could sleep in my car and was fine. I had been working at the White House. I've been traveling the world and doing everything. And then to come back and tell somebody that you ain't got a pot to piss in. it was just too hard to do. So I took a whole bunch of Tylenol 3 coating pills. Then I took these Tylenol PM pills. And I remember just taking them. I wrote out a suicide note. I told my family I'm sorry. That I could not live up to their standards. I apologized to my daughter. Because I felt I failed her as a father. At this point, I hadn't been able to see my son again because his mama kept him away. So to me, it was like no loss. He didn't even know who I was. And I wrote this note. I took those pills. And I fell asleep, not expecting to wake up again. I loved every minute of it. I loved doing everything I did. I loved serving. I loved traveling with him. I loved being his right hand, if you will, and being a part of that. Black Politics Today actually started while I was working with Bishop. I think we're listening to the radio or doing something, and the idea comes to me that I want to do a website or something like that called Black Politics. I'm doing the website and we're trying to find news feeds and articles to put up on it and everything else. And then one of the young ladies at the church, Tracy Gales, works at DCTV. And we start talking and she says, you should do a talk show. I'm like, I'm not a journalist. I'm not a talk show. I can't do no talk show. She says, yeah, you can do a talk show. I'm like, for what? On what? On your politics. We do the show for a while until they change over and it gets a little bit more expensive and I'm no longer able to do that. So then I said, well, let me do a radio show. So I start a show on Blog Talk Radio. We do our show every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then we're actually in the process now of moving the show to a live studio audience at the Ivy City Smokehouse here in Washington, D.C. So we're in negotiation with that, where we will broadcast live from the restaurant, have a live studio audience, bring in different subject matter experts, different members of Congress, city council, state legislators from Maryland and Virginia, and talk about the issues affecting African Americans socially, economically, and politically. And last year, in March, actually February, March, I launched the Black Politics Today magazine, which is the first and only exclusive, and I mean exclusive meaning African American political news publication that we've ever had in print. Success means 26 million subscribers. Success means in every newsstand, like every month, going to every household. Success means Genesis Global Media has TV stations around the nation, but around the globe. It means that there's Black Politics Today news. It means I have hired and I have employed and I have become the largest media conglomerate ever for African Americans, period. The enemy is never going to give me an idea to build me up. He's always going to give me an idea to take me down. So those dreams that I had, the idea of the Lamborghini, the idea of starting businesses before now and other businesses that I started that I gave up on and other dreams that I had that I gave up on were dreams and things that God had put in me. And what I have to learn, and what I'm still learning and still bringing myself to, is to realize that black politics today was put in me for a purpose, so that God can pull it out. The end game is that when I die, I turn it over to that boy you saw right here, my son and my daughter and my grandkids. And then they continue to move it and push it so that it becomes that we will always own. I will ban my kids from ever selling black politics today to anyone. It will always stay in the family. I want to thank my boy Rocky. This is Kelly Michael Williams. Black politics today is my excuse. What's yours?